Hi guys, Ace here, doing another art tutorial video. This one is about, well, doing kind of space-like art, planets, stars, stuff like that. So, and yes, this is in a very old version of Photoshop. It's Photoshop Elements 2008. I'm sure most people watching this do not have this version of this program, but hopefully whatever programs you do have access to have somewhat similar features so that this video will not be useless to you. Anyway, you're going to want to open a new project, file, window, whatever. Let's make the width 3000, the height 2500. So we get sort of a almost square but rectangle shape here with lots of room to work with. And since it's spaced, first thing we want to do, oops, that's not black enough. Yeah, there we go, pure black. Space is, mostly black, right? So you're looking at something from space. You're going to want to start like this. Now, let's create a new layer because now we are going to start making a planet. I'm going to start with Jupiter because Jupiter for me is the easiest to draw and one of the most fun because I just love drawing those cloud bands. Now we're going to want to not full. I don't want it to fully fill the screen, but almost there. That should be big enough. Let's opacity to maximum and hardness. Since it's a gas giant and is therefore like all atmosphere and no surface, let's smooth out the edge is just a tiny bit fuzzy. I'm gonna switch this to darken for now, and there we go. You see that fuzzy outline? That's what you want. And now we're going to once again use my favorite tool, the Magic Wand tool, to select all of this. And as you can see, it's selecting a little bit beyond the fuzzy edge. So what we're going to do is contract this a little bit and a little bit of feathering, which is essentially what we just did with the brush tool, but let's see how you may need to fiddle around to figure out the exact right amount of feathering and selection contracting until you get it just right. A little bit more, a little more. Let's try that. Nope, a little too much. That'll do. Okay, now we have our selected plain orange peachy fuzzy circle. Now we're gonna want to start adding features to it. Let's start by adding the lighter cloud bands. So I'm gonna select sort of a sepia, light sepia color. I'm going to do lighten and the opacity down to about 75. Little the fuzzy brush tool. Let's do this. Little wavy lines that curve up around the edges like that. Another one. One more right here. There we go. Now it's actually starting to look like a planet. Now let's add some darker cloud bands. For this, I'm going to use multiply, the multiply tool. There we go. That one's a little bit too wide, so do that. Let's narrow that down. There we go. And let's reduce the opacity a little bit. And just right in between the patches there. Let's add a third type, slightly more reddish one. Put one right there, one right there, one right there. And now let's do another lighter one here, but smaller this time, narrower. And lighten again. Just reduce the opacity again. One more reddish brown. Gonna do it. Multiply again. Let's increase that opacity so we can see some color in here. There we go. Starting to come together, but still missing one key feature. You can probably guess what that is. For Jupiter's most iconic feature, we are going to, once again, use the fuzzy brush tool, increase that opacity a little bit. There we go. Now we're going to want to add some streaks and smudges to that, swirls. Very, very subtle. You don't want it too blunt. A little bit more. Here we go. And now let's add some lighter ones. This time I'm going to use soft light. Increase that opacity a little bit. There we go. And just to be extra thorough, let's once again cover that over with some more red. There we go. And since that isn't the only storm on Jupiter, let's add some little whiter-ish ones. Dot them all over the place. Let's do lighten. No, it's too intense. Let's reduce that. There we go. There we go. Little smaller white-ish storms that are in between the cloud bands all over Jupiter. Let's put one right there because there's often one trailing the red spot. And let's add some darker ones. Here we go. There we go. And a couple more. And since the Juno probe showed us that the the poles of Jupiter are actually very intense blue. Let's blue these up, shall we? It's a little bit, it's just making it darker, so what I'm gonna do, soft light. Oops, I keep clicking that. And back to multiply. And 1 for linear burn. No, that's way too intense. So I reduce the opacity a lot. No, not even that's too much. Back to multiply. Linear burn is a very intense brush tool. There we go. Now we have something sort of resembling, yeah, you can even see the outline of the atmosphere here. It'll glow as though sunlight is hitting it. Speaking of which, now it's time to add the dark side. Here we go. Oops. I undid the select. Yeah, we still need that. Oops, that's way too intense. Sometimes I forget just how intense the linear burn tool is because I use it so much for shading on other drawings, but for this, oh, that's darken. For this I want multiply. It's slightly less intense than linear burn, but slightly more than darken. It's just the other side here because it's round. It's like a bigger brush and bigger. There we go. Make it a little bit bigger again. And you want to make that dark side really dark because in space, at least in our solar system anyway, the sun is the primary source of light, and any other light is just from stars, you know, light years away. So, which we will get to in a moment. Let's add one more thing right there. Now what I'm going to want to do, there we go. Soft light, and let's increase this, make it a little bigger. There we go. And vivid light, much like linear burn, is extremely intense, so let's reduce that opacity down. A little more. There we go. Now let's just, I think the overall shape of this is good enough, but now we're going to increase the contrast a little bit, make it stand out a bit more, up that brightness a bit too. There we go, very intense looking colors, which is what we want. Now, for the stars. My God, it's full of stars. Because Jupiter, because 2001 and 2010 Space Odyssey. 2010, the year we made contact, is really underrated. It's the, you may not know, it's the sequel to 2001: A Space Odyssey. And while it's, you know, it doesn't have that Stanley Kubrick touch to it, it's still pretty decent. It's well acted. It's got the guy from Jaws playing Dr. Floyd, the lead role, and it's really a really decent science fiction movie. I highly recommend it. It's actually where that line comes from, my God, it's full of stars. A lot of people think that it's from the first movie, but it's not. It's is from the sequel. A lot of people actually who haven't seen either movie confuse scenes from the two because it really is just a continuation. It doesn't get the no sound in space part right, you know, because it wasn't trying to be as super realistic and atmospheric and experience kind of as 2001. It was more trying to be, well, not like a typical high action science fiction movie, but more something along the lines of like maybe The Martian, or maybe not that even either. It really stands on its own. I can't really think of anything else to compare it to other than the first movie, even then. And I'm just rambling on about movies now as I filled the background with stars. But yeah, there is Jupiter in all its massive swirling hydrogen and helium glory. Even got that soft glow around the outer edge that sunlight usually does to planets at certain angles. Now, if we want, we can, well, first of all, before I do that, I'm going to save. Always remember to save, because you never know when, you know, power might go out or your program might just suddenly decide to shut off on you. I've had that happen so many times. Jupiter. Yeah, I've drawn Jupiter a few times. I'm going to just title this tutorial and call it something else later when I actually upload it. Tutorial. There we go. Now, if you want to get extra creative, let's add one of its moons. I'm going to do Io today because it's my favorite. Again, very heavily featured in 2010, the year we made contact. It's funny though, that movie is, well, it's still a good movie. It's kind of dated because at the time when they made it in the 80s, the Cold War was still going on, so they assumed that it would still be going on in 2010, which, oops. Anyway, I'm gonna put it right down here. Oops, that's not where I want it to go. It's the wrong layer. I'm gonna switch that to darken again. There we go. And since Io pretty much has no atmosphere, or at the very least not much of one, I'm not gonna bother fuzzying it up. What we do want to do, however, since it's the pizza moon, we want to give it some splotchy features, starting with some white splotchy things, and then some dark splotchy things, then some brown and orange, and maybe even some blue splotchy things. Okay, lighten. Turn the opacity down just a little bit. There we go. And make a little bigger one right there. There we go. Now some dark splotchy things. Let's do multiply. There we go. Now, let's switch to this tool, the smudgy brush tool. Okay, that looks good. Add some reddish brown. There we go. Let's add some sort of dark brown there. Let's add a little bit of light-ish blue. That's too much. Let's reduce that opacity a bit. And make it a bit lighter. Because there are some bluish spots on Io sometimes. Now a little bit of yellow, goldish yellow. Back to multiply, there we go. And back to soft light, there we go. Back to light-ish, off-white. Lighten, reduce that opacity a bit. It's the messy lava moon. It's basically our solar system's equivalent of Mustafar. There we go. I think that's pizza-y looking enough. So let's do the shadow, the dark side. We're gonna want to make it more or less match the crescent shadow that I gave on Jupiter, because again the light source is coming from one direction. It's smaller brush tool right around that edge there, and again the slightly larger one. There we go, and just a tiny little one for this side. There we go. Now, as before with Jupiter, let's intensify the light side a bit. There we go. And there you have Jupiter and its very volcanically active moon, right in the corner there. So I'm going to save this again. There we go. Here, this again. I'm gonna save it as a PNG. You can save it as either PNG or JPEG, but I find PNG is slightly higher quality, so just gonna keep it as that title for now until I decide to change it, or maybe I'll keep it as that title and have this video linked in the description when I post this on DeviantArt. We'll see. Save that. There we go. And there you have Jupiter. The biggest, by far, planet in the solar system that can fit all of the other planets, comets, asteroids, etc. inside of it with room to spare. Mass-wise, anyway. Actually, notice something about Io here. The outline on it is, let's get rid of that feather. It's a little bit, sometimes that happens when you use the select tool and then the brush tools to shade. You get this sort of whitish outline around it, and we don't want that. There we go, that's better. Save it again. There we go. And save it as a PNG again. There we go. No, I don't want copy in your name. It's the same thing, just replacing it. And there it goes. Come on. It's a big file, so it takes a little while to save, especially to PNG. And there we go. There you have Jupiter. Or as Kyle Hill likes to call it, Joop Joop. So, let me know in the comments if you want me to do more of these. Like, say, if you want me to see me do Saturn, Uranus or Neptune, the Sun, other stars. Terrestrial planets are a bit harder. I have done them, but I'm not that great at them yet. So I don't know if watching a tutorial on me do a terrestrial planet would really be the best thing to follow. But yeah, just let me know in the comments what you want to see. I'm still trying to grow this YouTube channel. So any feedback, input, suggestions would be helpful. As well as subscribing, liking, you know the deal. I have been Ace, keeping up your sleeve. Until the next video.